everyone, welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is presented to you by Losico. So today we'll be discussing about a very interesting topic, which is the event of Jallikattu. So basically, this is an animal sport which is played specifically in southern India and in the state of Tamil Nadu, to be very specific. So what are the pros and cons of this entire thing, and what is the very issue of the local pride that is attached to it, and what are the instances taking up in the political era as well in this area or in this regard? We'll be discussing in this article. And the second one, we have news in flash. If in case you're also preparing for judicial services examination, do check out the lot of the courses, which is Losico's Judiciary Test Prep course. The link to this course is available in the description box below. And from the landing page, you can also download free study material for your own help. Let's see that what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Who was the first Indian commander-in-chief of the Indian Army? So your options are General K.M. Keriyappa, second, General Prannath Thapar, third, General Krishnaswamy Sundarji, or fourth, none of the above. You can write down your answer in the comment section below. This is the descriptive question for the day. Jallikattu is a violation of animal rights. Do you agree? Critically examine. Please consider, I've already told this many times before as well, that whenever the question has this term critically examine, you have to understand the statement in both the ways, finding the pros as well as the cons, the advantages and the disadvantages of the given statement. So in this case also, you have to analyze that what are the good points relating to Jallikattu and what are the negative points related to it. So with the assembly polls in Tamil Nadu near, the Pongal festival and Jallikattu have become a subject of political importance. Basically, this topic of Jallikattu is perhaps a topic which comes up every time there are elections in Tamil Nadu, or whenever there is any kind of political promising that is going on. So in that sense, Jallikattu is always brought up. For that, we need to understand that what actually is Jallikattu and why at all it is questionable by some section of the society, some section of the people, and why it is such, it gains so much of support from the other section of the people. So as you can see here as well, this is actually a kind of bullfight kind of a culture. Yes, I'm sure that by this you must be remembering the very famous movie of Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where there was this bull race all over in Spain and all. In a way, it is related to the bulls, but it is not a race at all. But basically, as you can see, some men, they try to take control over a very strong, huge bull, and that is how if they're able to conquer that bull. So the person who owns this bull pays some amount of money to the people who were contesting, and if they lose it, then they lose that money. So basically, it is a very, it is a very old sport over there. So basically, it is almost 2000 years old. It is a bull taming sport, as I just mentioned, which is popular in Madurai, Tiruchirappalli, Theni, Pudukottai, and Dindigul districts, which actually are called as the Jallikattu belt. So here you also can see a very, a commercial which was coming from the Amul Cooperation. So it says that Jallikattu, India's official entry to 2021 Oscars, Kattu, a piece of butter. Basically, it in the international world also, it is many a times considered to be animal cruelty. That is why there are two complete different facets of this very sport. So it is celebrated in the second week of January during Pongal. Now, as we know that we are also going through the 4 days of Pongal celebration, which is basically done to honor the bull owners who rear them for mating. The prize is only major source of monetary benefits for the bull owners. So basically, it is in the age of mechanized farming. Now, there are different things. Now, when we say that we need to critically analyze the very festival or the very sport of Jallikattu, so it is not something that only is associated with the violation of animal rights, but also it has various important, culture or a very important giving that it has for the people who actually own these bulls. So firstly, they actually honor the bull owners who rear them for mating, because they consider that these few breeds of the bull, now these are not the regular bulls that you can find in the northern part of India or just like anywhere in the area. These are some special species of the bull, which are actually, the bull owners try to keep these species very clean and clear, in the sense that they do not want any mixed breeding to be done with that. So for that purpose, it is important for them to keep the male bulls as well alive, because in the normal situations, either the male bulls are brought to the fields to work as a, for the physical labor, or otherwise they are just sold to the butcher market for being slaughtered. So in that situation, this fight actually helps them and reinforces them to raise these bulls, male bulls specifically, and can also keep them safe for the mating purpose. And secondly, the price is only a major source of monetary benefits for the bull owners in the age of the mechanized farming, because as we know that many of us now use tractors and other kinds of machines in the farms. So in that sense, the money which they earn through the prizes in this Jallikattu festival, they actually can use that money for various kinds of purposes and also for raising these bulls in the long run. Then, for the importance, it is considered as a traditional way for the peasant community to preserve their pure breed native bulls, which I just mentioned, and a way to protect the male animals, which others are used only for meat, if not for agriculture. And thus, the conservationists and peasants, they both actually, in sometimes, they in some sense, they all they support the Jallikattu festival. But since it is said that we many people say that it is being very you are being very harsh to the animal, because which also is a true face of this festival. That is why this entire cultural and socio-cultural festival has taken up various legal challenges from time immemorial, as in not really literally immemorial, but yes, it has been a long fight since 1990s, and we already have done 3 decades for that. So in 1990s there were legal challenges surrounding animal rights that had actually emerged. In 1991, the Environment Ministry notification banned the training and exhibition of bears, monkeys, tigers, panthers, and dogs, which was later challenged by the Indian Circus Organization in Delhi High Court. In 1998, dogs were excluded from the notification. Then 2007, Animal Welfare Board of India and PETA, which is the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, filed petitions in the Supreme Court against Jallikattu and bullock cart races. So you can see that a long chronology has followed up trying to gain animal rights for the animals that are living at least over here in India, which is definitely a very important cause as well. And we also, being responsible citizens, should be very careful while we treat any animal, and we should be very, we should take care that we do not mistreat or ill treat any kind of animal. So if you talk about the current legal status, it is this matter is sub judice in the Supreme Court, which means that the Supreme Court is yet to decide upon this matter, and the state governments have allowed the events, because obviously the local people, they are very much fond of this entire sport, this entire social festival which they celebrate, and that is why the political parties over there and the state governments have actually given a heads up for this in the current situation. With this, let's see what do we have for news in flash today. Russia announced exit from Open Skies Treaty. So it stated that the pact which allows unarmed surveillance flights over member countries. Now, this is one thing that we need to remember, that what is the very purpose of the Open Skies Treaty? It has 34 member states in total. And the purpose of it is that there can be unarmed, which means that no weapons are allowed. A surveillance can take place through flights over the member countries, which will actually provide them important military data and for entire security purpose as well. So Russia has declared that it will be taking and making an exit from the Open Seas Treaty. So it had compromised with the withdrawal of US. Now, recently, this is a very important thing which you need to know, that which countries have withdrawn from the Open Skies Treaty. So earlier it was the United States, and now after that, Russia has also made the exit. So the US exited the pact in November 2020, accusing Russia of violating it, but it was obviously denied by Russia. So secondly, we have the Hubara bustard. So Pakistan recently issued a license to 11 members of the UAE, which is United Arab Emirates, royal family in Panjgur district, which is there in Balochistan. Now, as we know that geographically, Balochistan is a part of the Indian map. But if we talk about the territorial, or we talk about the political thing, it comes under the Pak-occupied Kashmir, which is governed by Pakistan. So Pakistan government has given a license, or it has issued a consent offer to the 11 members of UAE's royal family to come and hunt the internationally protected and vulnerable species, which is of Hubara bustard. So earlier this week, the license was also issued to Dubai ruler, he has a very long name though, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Crown Prince, and four others. Basically, this is the picture of the Hubara bustard. It is of two kinds. It is Asian bustard, Hubara bustard, and then we also have the Northern African. It is the Asian one is one of the closer species of the Great Indian bustard, and the IUCN status for this is vulnerable. But yet, to maintain its international relations with the Middle East area and the Arab countries, Pakistan allows the annual hunting and poaching of this very rarely found species. So as we know that it is a large terrestrial bird found in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So it has two species, as I just named, the North African Hubara and the Asian Hubara. So that was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you. Thank you so much. If in case you wish to download the PDF for today's slides, you can join a Telegram group. The link to this group is there in the description box below. And you can also visit our official website for any other kind of information. Thank you so much.